spend most of
Charles, we first met online. We both went to Ohio University online master's program. I was telling him earlier when he first got here is that my ignorance moment with him is that the discussion forums you got to do in master's school, you got to, scratch each other's back. You're like, oh, great, yeah, I love what you said, whatever. And the one time I got called out was, and you're gonna love this one, is that it was at the time I still hadn't done enough research on strength conditioning, and I'm just like, yeah, baseball players should lift overhead. And I wrote a whole discussion board post on it, and he's like, really? You sure about that? Like, I don't think you're right. It just caught me so off guard, but ever since then, we met at our symposium where we went to, but Charles is doing outstanding stuff. He actually is the main reason this is still happening because it was tough to get this thing going, but he's helped me out great, and he kind of was the last push that kept me to still put this conference on, so thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Edge of Greatness podcast, apparel line. He's got some stuff back here for sale. Make sure to check that out. But how many podcasts do you have now?
78.
78?
78 episodes, yeah.
A year, right?
Been over a year, yeah.
Yeah, so 78, he's been crushing it. He's got great guests on there. If any of you guys want to get on there, I bet you'd be more welcome to do that. But just, he put a book out. And he's just putting out so much, and I have to call him friends. So.
Yeah, thank you.
TJ, thanks for letting him go after him.
No, thank you, TJ. I appreciate being here. It's quite an honor to get to talk in front of all you guys. What's interesting for me is how to start all these things. I always try to work how to start the conversation. So since tacos are coming up, I'm going to try to be as brief as I can because nobody likes a cold taco. So anyway. One of the things about what I'm doing is chasing greatness. It's been in my blood since I was young, and I just love the question, what is greatness? What does it mean to be great? And then with that, how do we achieve it? How do we get there? How do we become our best self? And for me, greatness isn't success. It's not the numbers, it's not the winning and losing. Success is temporary, it's momentary, it's fleeting. We'll have moments where we're good, we'll have moments when we're bad. But greatness is the daily routines, the daily habits, the consistencies that we have, that we do on a regular basis that holds a standard above everything else. So we can be great and have poor results. We can be not great and have good results. But I find that if we consistently chase greatness and we consistently pursue a high level of performance, and we are trying to be this greater version of ourselves, the success will eventually find us. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell you a little story about where my journey started. Some of you will probably not have been alive for this moment, but that's fine. It was May 7th, 1989, and I was sitting on the floor in my living room, and the NBA playoffs were on, and the Cavs and the Bulls were going at it. I was born in Cuyahoga Falls, which is northeast Ohio, and so I'm a big Cavs fan. And I'm invested in this game. It's game 5. They're going back and forth. It's been a neck-and-neck game. And late in the game, Craig Elo goes and shoots the layup and scores, and I'm getting excited. I'm like, yes, my Cavs are going to move on to the next level. Little did I know that the Bulls had a guy named Michael Jordan. You've probably heard that name. He's okay. But in that moment, I'm thinking, man, the Cavs are moving on. We're good. They called a timeout. And the inbounds play happens about half court. Michael Jordan gets the ball, takes 2 hard dribbles to his left, elevates for what seems like 38 years. And I'm inching closer to my 18-inch tube television that weighed 800 pounds, afraid it's gonna fall on me. So those of you who don't know the tube television problems, it takes me and Brett to move an 18-inch TV 3 feet. But I'm sitting there, I'm getting closer, and he's hovering and floating. And he releases his shot, and Craig Elo just kind of floats by, and the ball rattles in as the time expires. And I'm sure everyone has seen the iconic jumping at half court, pumping his fists, excited because they just beat my Cavs. And 2 things happened in that moment. One, almost 6-year-old's dreams were crushed, and I'm pretty sure I was in tears. And 2, I started to wonder, why was he so special? What made him so much different than everyone else? And at the time, I don't really think it registered like it does now. But it started my journey to pursuing my personal athletic greatness that I was trying to achieve. And from that moment, I wanted to be a professional athlete. It never really panned out from the professional side for me because I lost my way and I didn't stay true to the things that got me to my college career. And I think that's the one thing that's happening here is that I think we're all floating along in a sea of possibilities. We're all in the same spot. We all have the same abilities and the same opportunities, and we can go any direction we want. The sea is wide open. There's nothing restricting us from going where we need to go and getting to where we need to be. The problem is, and the challenging part is, those who achieve excellence and those who achieve greatness learn to navigate that sea better. They become the master of the sea. And those who don't float along and hope for the winds to push them in the right direction. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about a couple components that I think are important that sets the tone for achieving your personal greatness and mastering the seas. So with that, we have motivation, and that's the wind. We have commitment, and that's the hard work that we have to do. We have discipline, which is the daily things that we have to do. There's going to be adversity. Those are the storms that are going to show up. We have to be passionate, so we have to find what that passion is, and that's our rudder. It's going to steer our ship. But more important than that, we have to find our purpose, and that's our compass. And when all these things align and they all work together, we can accomplish some pretty incredible things. The first thing about this is motivation I put first because I think it's the weakest. I think it's the least important thing in this entire journey. Motivation is temporary. We don't know when the wind's going to show up. We don't know what direction the wind's going to blow. We don't know for how long that wind is actually going to push us in the direction we want to go. But when it does show up, we have to be ready. And that's where the other pieces come in. So we can't just rely on our motivation, but we can't ignore it either because it is a powerful tool. So when we get motivated, we have to attack that motivation and we have to take it for what it's worth and ride it for as long as it's there. But in order to do that, we have to show up and we have to be committed. The commitment piece is the most important part. That's the work we put in. That's the daily efforts. And when I think about commitment, it reminds me of a story that I had when I was playing. I was in high school, and it taught me about the understanding of doing the little things and doing the hard work every single time. So I'm a senior. I was playing shortstop. I think there's a runner on second, there's 2 outs, and there's a hard ball to my right. I take 2-3 hard steps, dive, lay out, make this play that in my mind I'm like, yes, I'm awesome. I pop up to one knee because, again, I'm an all-star, and I can throw it across the infield from my knee. And on the transfer, I drop the ball. And you know, no home front, no foul. The guy gets to first. The run doesn't score because I stopped the ball from getting to the outfield. And I'm thinking, okay, whatever, that sucks. It could have been really sweet. I'd have been on ESPN, but it is what it is. And my coach comes flying around the dugout corner. We have this fence in front. He's flying around. He goes, "Get to your feet and throw the damn baseball." And I'm just like, but I saved a run. What do you mean? I did. That was good. Nobody else is doing that. And I'm sitting there and I'm starting to get angry at my coach. Like, why are you yelling at me? What are you upset about? Like, I made a nice play. And after the game, he pulls me aside and he goes, "Charles, you've got some pretty awesome abilities. You're really good at this game. But when you don't do all of the work and you try to cut corners and you try to take shortcuts and you try to skip out on the little things, you're just average." Because there are no shortcuts. And in my mind, I'm like, you know what, you're right. I had time. I could have got to my feet. And I still might have dropped the ball. But I was trying to do something cool, and I was trying to do something at a high level, and I was trying to do it a certain way that was skipping steps. I wasn't ready to make that play. In my mind I was, but I hadn't put in enough work to earn the right to make that play. So we always have to put in the work. There's no escaping the work. And those who are great do it every day. Kobe Bryant got up at 4 a.m. and went and worked out before people were awake. Michael Jordan went and hired a trainer when nobody else was doing that. The greats do more work. And that's something that's super valuable, is that if you can do more work, it gives you an advantage. If you can show up a little bit early, every 30 minutes extra you get adds up. Every extra rep you get adds up. So the work is super important, and it's one of the key components of those who are great versus those who are not. And when it relates to our boat analogy, the work is our oars. So when the wind's not blowing and you're not getting any help, are you willing to put your oars in the water and row the boat? It's one of the things I really love about Minnesota football right now. This is the row the boat analogy that they're talking about, that everything's row the boat. And in my mind, I'm thinking of a team that's going to get to where they're going, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the seas are like, because they're all rowing together in the same direction, putting in the work. So from there, what we look at next is the discipline. The discipline is the daily things that we do, the habits, the routines. And in this case, for example, we set the sails, right? Whether the wind's ready to blow or not, we have to set the sails. We have to make sure there's no holes in our boat. We have to make sure our compass is pointed in the right direction, that our rudder's in the water, that we're ready to row if we need to. All the little things, all the disciplines, all the things that we do on a regular basis without looking at the bigger picture. So one of the things that really stands out to me is I recently read Will Smith's book. I don't know if any of you had a chance to do that yet, but I recommend it. It's fantastic. Get the Audible because he narrates it and it's a little bit more fun. But when he was like 9 years old, the shop at his father's house had a hole in the wall. It was a brick wall, hole in the wall, and he and his brother were tasked with rebuilding the wall at like 9. Makes sense, right? And we don't have contractors in Philadelphia. Let's get these kids to do it. Well, he shows up and he's looking at this huge wall, this huge hole, and he's like, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. This wall is massive, and I can't even reach the top, and there's holes, and I don't even know what I'm doing. And his dad comes out and he goes, son, I don't care about the wall. Stop looking at the wall. The wall is going to be there. What I want you to do is focus on laying one brick perfect. You can lay one brick perfect, right? And Will nods and he goes, yeah, I can lay a brick perfect. He goes, good. We'll lay that brick perfect. And then lay another brick perfect. And then another. And then another. And over time, those bricks are going to become your wall. But you have to have the discipline to show up and lay a brick. You have to have the discipline to come every day, make progress, put in the little bit of work, lay your bricks, set your sails, and get ready for when the motivation hits. Because when it does, that's when you get your boost. All right, and it's all about those little pieces and that daily effort. Recently, I just did my floors at home, and that brick analogy really took like another meaning for me. I don't know if any of you have ever done your floors, but imagine this whole room, and all you have to do is lay one little plank at a time. And if you get a little bit out of alignment, all of a sudden you're like halfway there, and you're like, I can't get these boards to stick together. And you look back here, and you're like, well, I probably should have paid a little more attention to what I was doing instead of worrying about finishing my project. Because if you try to cut corners and you try to skip steps and you try to do it fast and you don't do the discipline stuff, eventually it may not affect you now, but down the line there's going to be a bigger hole. There's going to be a bigger problem. So the next piece of this is the adversity. All right? No matter who you are, no matter what you pursue, no matter what level you get to, adversity is going to be a part of your journey. I personally believe that we're wired to take on adversity. I think we actually seek out adversity. We seek out tough stuff. The difference is the greats embrace tough stuff, and those who are not use it as excuses. And they say, well, I just didn't get lucky. I didn't have this moment, or my adversity was too great. When you look at adversity in the storms on the sea, they're going to happen. They're going to show up. You can't determine when. You can't determine for how long. You don't know where they're going to come from. But they're going to happen. You're going to face them. They're going to be there. And when that storm arises, how are you going to handle it? How are you going to look at the failure that's going to happen? Are you going to let it spin your boat and point you off course? Are you going to put your oars in the water and paddle through it? Are you going to hunker down and wait for it to pass? What are you going to do to attack the adversity? And I believe that if you attack your adversity head on and you use it as learning opportunities, you're going to find that at the end of the day, you're going to end up more successful. And you're going to have more opportunities to move further along. But if you sit there and you blame the storm for not getting to your destination, you're going to end up facing the wrong way, and you're going to have to course correct later. The next piece of this journey is the passion and the purpose. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about them together, because I think they actually are more connected than they're not, but they are very, very different. So as I mentioned before, the passion is our rudder. It's going to steer our boat. And our purpose is our compass. It is going to be our ultimate heading to where we want to go. And I'm going to start this off by telling you a little story about myself. As a freshman, I had just finished up my basketball season, and it was getting close to AAU season. For all of you who are not familiar with that, that's the travel ball equivalent to travel baseball. I was set to be on the junior varsity baseball team at my high school. And I walked up to my coach and I go, hey coach, My AAU season's about to start. Do you care if I play, some tournaments when it doesn't conflict with baseball? I won't miss any games. I won't miss any practices. It won't affect my baseball at all. He looks me dead in the eyes. He goes, no, absolutely not. So I'm like, I don't think you understood what I was saying. I'm not going to miss anything. It's just something I want to do on the side because, I want to pursue a athletic career in either baseball or basketball. And at the time, basketball was my passion. That's the one that I was like really into. And again, no, he goes, no, that's not what we do here. You're going to play baseball. And then when the summer comes, you can go play some basketball. So I go home and I'm talking to my mom. I go, I'm going to quit baseball. I don't want to play baseball. I mean, let's be honest. I'm going to be a basketball player anyway because everyone's looking for a 5'11" power forward. That's obviously where I belong. And she's looking at me and she's freaking out because she's like, yeah, you're not a basketball player. You're good, but let's be honest, you're not going to play at the next level for basketball. And she goes, okay, she was never a person to tell me no. So she said, I'm going to have you talk to 3 people. And after you talk to those 3 people, if you still want to quit, that's up to you. So she sits me down first with my athletic director from my middle school. His name was Bill Mosca. We had become close while I was in middle school, and that was just my freshman year. I was 1 year removed from being in his care. And I sit down in front of him, and he gets right to the point. He goes, Charles, what's your dream? What's your purpose? What are you doing? I go, well, I want to play college sports. I want to play D1 college athletics. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, if you got an offer to play Division I baseball or Division III basketball, what would you do? I go, baseball. Absolutely. I play D1 baseball over basketball for sure. He's like, all right. And what if that was off the table? I'm sitting there, I'm like, what do you mean? You just said it was on the table. And then it clicked. I was like, oh, if I quit baseball, then I don't have that option anymore. Because in his mind, he knew that my future was going to be in baseball, but he didn't want to tell me that I was being stupid for going to try to pursue basketball. He did it with understanding that I was lost following the wrong passion. So when I had the realization that, my future was baseball. So I recommitted myself. I showed up. I actually ended up making varsity as a freshman because the next few days of practice I was actually there and present instead of thinking about how I was going to go shoot some hoops. But it was a clear example to me of being lost in a momentary passion. Because passions are going to change over time. You'll be passionate about something here, something will change, and you'll be passionate about something over here. But if you can get your passions to align with your purpose, even if they shift a little bit, you can find yourself making more progress towards your ultimate goals over the course of time. So my goal was to play in college, and so I thought my passion lining up with basketball was directly in line with my purpose. But I didn't see the secondary passion, which was baseball. That was my first love. I had lost it because basketball was more fun at the time. And so I was steering my boat this way, headed towards that passion, where my purpose was here, where baseball was more this way. And so I needed to course correct. And if any of you have ever seen a ship sail, it doesn't go directly towards its target. Ships sail like this. They follow the wind. They're going to go this way. The wind's going to shift. They're going to shift back. And so that's our passion changing over time. But if we can shift our passion back and forth and adjust our sails to keep us moving towards our purpose, which is our greater why, then over time we get closer to our final destination. And I think that's the most important part of all this is that your passions will shift. And that's okay. Don't be afraid of that. But ask yourself, does it align with my bigger why? Does it align with my purpose? Because if it doesn't, question whether or not you need to change direction on your ship. Should you go a new direction? Or should you hold course and look for something different? And a lot of people get stuck in that moment right there. And they wait too long to address what their bigger why is. And they follow their passion and get lost. So I'm not saying don't acknowledge your passions. I want you to chase those passions. I think that's important. I think you need to be passionate about what you're going after because that helps you do the little things I talked about before. Put your oars in the water, do the little things, set the bricks, right? You need to do all those things, but you have to be passionate about it. Otherwise, it's just, you won't do it. But you have to ask yourself too, does it truly align close enough to my ultimate purpose? And when it changes, and when you shift course, are you still making progress towards that end game? So as you continue to move through your life and your challenges and the things that you're pursuing, really dive into finding out what your why is. What are you drawn to bigger than anything else? Check your rudder, make sure you're sailing in the right direction. So when those passions shift and you find yourself going a new way, that it's close enough to align with your purpose to get you a little bit closer. Don't be afraid to show up and do the work. Set the bricks, lay the planks on your floor, set the sails when there's no wind. Do the work, put the oars in the water, and prepare for the storms, because they're going to happen. But when you paddle through the storms and you come out on the other side and the wind starts to blow you in the right direction, you'll be ready to fly closer to your destination. I think that's the ultimate thing for this, is that can we get there quickly, and can we do it with purpose, passion, and understanding that we're going to have troubles along the way. So, thank you guys.